Then the soldiers led him away into the hall called Praetorium, and they called together the whole garrison. And they clothed him with purple, and they twisted a crown of thorns, put it on his head, and began to salute him, "Hail, King of the Jews!" Then they struck him on the head with a reed, and spat on him, and bowing the knee they worshipped him. And when they'd mocked him, they took the purple off him, put his own clothes on him, and led him out to crucify him. The Bible shares the horrific imagery of a crown of thorns being put on Jesus' head, clothing him in purple before leading him to be crucified. I want to come back to these powerful images in just a moment. Why did the soldiers do this? On a lighter moment, it's Jacaranda time in Sydney, and it's wonderful to see clusters of purple flowers brightening up the Sydney landscape. And this is McDougall Street in Sydney. It's really popular for tourists to come and see this street lined with jacaranda trees. And for a month or two every year, hundreds of people visit this street to get photos of the beautiful display. But what is the significance of a purple garment being placed on Jesus? To understand this, we need to go back and understand the culture of the day a little bit more. And we see that purple in the Old Testament is often associated with royalty or important position. The Bible talks about Mordecai wearing a purple robe. The kings of Midian had purple robes. We see the king of Babylon offering the wise men, "Whoever reads this writing and tells me what it means will be clothed in purple and have a gold chain placed around his neck and will be made the third highest ruler in the kingdom." That can be found in Daniel chapter 5. And Jesus talks about a rich man in Luke 16 who was dressed in purple and fine linen and loved luxury every day. So we begin to see this association between wealth, royalty, and wearing purple. In the decoration of the tabernacle, the children of Israel were commanded to make several curtains. And just note the colour of these curtains. They were 20 cubits long, blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, finely twisted linen. And that can be found in Exodus 27. So purple too can be associated with the temple, with the worship of God. Purple can be symbolic of God himself. Pigments were sometimes difficult to acquire, and the production of purple dye was quite tricky. It came from the mucus of several species of seashells. And to get this pigment, they had to extract this mucus from tens of thousands of snails. Just imagine the time and the labour and the complexity of doing that. That made this pigment very expensive and was therefore associated with wealth and royalty. But on a more serious note, if we go back to that verse that we opened this video with, from Mark 15, we see Jesus, the Son of God, standing there, wearing a purple robe, a robe of mockery, and upon his head a crown of thorns. And there he is, stripped to his waist. His back showed long, cruel stripes where he'd been lashed, where the blood had flowed freely. And if you were to look upon his face bore the marks of exhaustion, pain and suffering. And yet, if you looked into his eyes, you could see pity, mercy, long-suffering. You could see strength and dignity. Here, the Son of God sacrificing so much because of his love for his people. What a contrast to the criminal by his side, Barabbas. And there was Pilate looking upon this scene with great amazement. He hoped that the Jews would be moved to sympathy looking here at Jesus in contrast to Barabbas. But he didn't understand the fanatical hatred of the priests for Jesus, who Jesus was the light of the world. He'd made manifest their darkness and error. And they'd moved the mob to a mad fury. The priests, the rulers, the people cried that awful cry, "Crucify him, crucify him." And at last Pilate had lost all patience with their unreasoning cruelty. He cried out despairingly, "Take ye him, crucify him, for I find no fault in him." When Pilate saw that he couldn't change the cries of the maddening throng, he took water, washed his hands before the multitude, saying, "I am innocent of the blood of this just person. See ye to it." In fear and self-condemnation, Pilate looked upon the Saviour, and in the vast sea of upturned faces, his alone was peaceful. When Christ shall come to this earth again, he won't be surrounded by an angry rabble. People will look to heaven and see him there as heaven's King. Christ will come in his glory, in the glory of his Father, in the glory of the holy angels, 10,000 times 10,000, and thousands of angels. There'll be incredible glory as Jesus is escorted on his way to collect his people. Then Jesus will sit upon the throne of his glory. Before him shall be gathered all the nations, and then every eye will see him, and also those that pierced him. In the place of a crown of thorns, he will wear a crown of glory, and in place of that purple robe, he will be clothed in raiment of the whitest white.